Today's going to be a little bit different video. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something that I had promised I would talk about, which is weighing the benefits, the advantages, disadvantages of buying equipment or renting equipment or paying someone to um, to do the work for you. The one thing I'm not going to talk about, because if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't have a lot of experience with it, but the fourth option would be leasing equipment. And the only thing that I will say about it is, from what I've gathered, at least from what other people have talked about, leasing equipment only really makes sense if you plan on buying that piece of equipment anyways, but you're just trying to reduce your monthly expense. Generally speaking, the way that leasing works, it's kind of like renting it, but you sort of own it. It's the same way like leasing a car, right? Where as long as you stay under a certain mileage on your car, whatever, at the end of your lease, you get an option to buy at a reduced cost, and they sort of take into account the amount of money that you've put into that lease when you negotiate that price. The same thing is true. There are leasing options for equipment like skid steers and excavators and maybe tractors. I don't know if you can do it with tractors, but I know a lot of heavy operating equipment, a lot of times you can find leasing options. That's all I know. So I can't speak to that. I would definitely ask someone else if you're interested in that option. Another option would be to buy, to just outright purchase something. Now, this is, I will say, probably the most expensive option out of everything else. The big benefit to it, to offset the fact that it is the most expensive option, is that you own it. It's yours, right? And when I say buy, keep in mind, that doesn't mean you're just going to write a check for however much this equipment costs, $50,000, $150,000, $300,000, right? Oftentimes you end up taking out either a personal loan or some sort of business loan, or you do dealer financing or something like that, where you're not just writing a check, you're going to be making monthly payments on that thing. But ultimately, at the end of the day, because you're responsible to pay off that entire equipment, that equipment is yours. Because it's yours, you never have to wait. Use it when you want to use it. Let's say right now, at this very moment, I get a wild hair up my butt and I say, I need to dig a trench on the side of the house. It's drizzling right now, but I think we're gonna have some heavy rains coming in. This is a project that I've really been meaning to do, but now is the time. I have the time to do it. Took a day off of work. Let's make it happen. You can do that if you have the equipment. The counter to that is, if you have to rent that equipment, maybe they have it. If you give them a call and you say, hey, look, I got a little bit of time today. Do you guys have the tractor, or do you guys have a skid steer with whatever implement that you need? They might say, yeah, maybe we got the skid steer, but we don't have the implement. Then you're gonna have to call some other place and say, hey, do you have this implement? And then try to run it can be a huge hassle, right? If you own it, it's there, and you're ready to work. Turn the key and go. My final point for buying, and this is a big one for me, because I have never used heavy equipment. I've never had to operate a bulldozer or an excavator or a skid steer. I've never even driven a tractor, right? I've driven a lawn tractor. I've driven a lawnmower, but I've never even driven a zero turn, right? So there are experiences that I have not had in terms of any sort of equipment operation. It's not to say that I couldn't operate them. I just don't have the experience. And the question is, if you have zero experience, would you want to take on a project like the one that you're seeing on my channel, the progress that you're seeing on clearing 2 acres of land with zero experience with heavy equipment operation, and just pick up the phone and call some rental company and say, hey, I need a machine for a couple of weeks? Most likely it's going to be more like a month, because the first 2 weeks you're going to spend just trying to figure out like how the boom and how the curl works, and I think I got it, but oh wait, I hit the pedal and I'm going backwards. Am I doing this right? There's going to be that very, very steep learning curve just to learn how to turn this thing on. Okay, I'm turning the key, nothing's happening. What's going on? Oh, I got to turn the battery on. I think there's a power override somewhere around here. Let me go look for it. Yeah, all of that, tick tock, all of that you're running on the clock for that rental machine. If you own it, who cares? Burn a day, burn a week, burn a month just trying to learn it. Who cares? It's yours, right? You're not wasting anybody's time but your own, and if you're having fun, then that's all that matters. I kind of hit a couple of points here for the rental side. Like I mentioned, a big disadvantage to rental is you're kind of running on their schedule. And a lot of times, you know, they might even favor guys who rent their equipment on the regular, guys who maybe rent it all the time. And if you're just some Joe Schmo who doesn't even know how to use it, and you call them up and they only got a couple machines that, you know, some of their regulars like to use, they might just say, you know, I'll call you back, hold on, and go call those guys and make sure that they don't need it. A big bonus to renting, though, is that it is probably the cheapest option. If you're comparing buying or paying someone to do the work, renting is going to be pretty cheap. If you think about it, you can rent, let's say for a day, you could rent a skid steer for maybe $250 or something. And if you want to rent it for like a week, it might be like $1,200, let's say. Or if you want to rent an excavator, it might be something similar to that. You might get a decent sized excavator for maybe $1,200 for a week. If you know what you're doing, you can do some real damage in a week with an excavator. And if you don't know what you're doing, you could just sit there and spin in circles and make little holes in the ground and not do a whole lot. But in terms of actually clearing property, getting things graded out, digging up stumps, doing the hard work, are you confident enough to do that with zero experience? And then if you don't get it done, what, you're going to pay to rent it for longer, maybe? Or if your effort was a complete failure, you might be out a couple $1,000s and now you have to go hire somebody anyways. And lastly, paying someone to do that work. That hurts. It hurts on so many levels, because as somebody who, I love the DIY. Obviously, if you guys follow my channel, you know that I like building things, I like doing the work myself. I would love to get behind the wheel of some heavy equipment, but I gotta weigh my options to say, do I want to risk the money and the time and the fuel and all of that to try to rent equipment and then feel pressured because I'm on the clock, or invest a significant amount of money to buy equipment that I might not even need after we clear the property? I mean, don't get me wrong, if I got an excavator, I'll find a reason to use it, but I may not have any trees left by the time I'm ready to sell that thing. If I pay someone, it's going to be very expensive for sure, but it's not the most expensive option. The most expensive is still to buy the equipment in short term. Granted, long term, you can do multiple projects once you own the equipment, but short term, paying someone is only about the second most expensive. And keep in mind, it's expensive because you're paying for the knowledge, the experience, for the efficiency, and it's a business. They got to make a profit. They got to pay to maintain their equipment. They have to keep up with that kind of stuff. Things break all the time. There's wear and tear on these machines. You know, it's not free for them to go out there and do the work. And they're pushing a $500,000 piece of equipment. That's not going to be a cheap operation for them to do that. It's certainly not a charity out there. Lastly, with that experience that you're paying for, what you're going to get is a quality result. Because let's say I go out and I buy an excavator and I clear those 2 acres all by myself. Congratulations. I also am going to need to root rake it and grade it. And you can't grade with an excavator. You're going to need a dozer or something else. Maybe, if you're lucky, you could pull it off with a relatively good sized tractor, which I also do not have. Now I'm still going to have to go out and rent a second machine to do the grading, a machine that, by the way, I don't know how to drive. So I realize there's a lot of guys out there on YouTube that are saying, yeah, just go out and get a machine and get this thing done. It's super cheap. You can clear your land for like $2,000. Look, if you're in the construction business and you do this day in, day out, yeah, absolutely. If all you do is drive a skid steer all day and then you have to go home and drive a skid steer, by the way, I don't drive a skid steer all day. Yeah, you can probably clear your land for $2,000. So just keep that in mind, is that if you are someone who's thinking about getting some land cleared or buying land and then having it cleared, you do have to consider the cost to clear it, and you are going to have to ask yourself that question: do I buy something? Do I lease something? Do I rent something? Or do I just pay for something? I've got no regrets. So I guess that's it. I guess that's all I really wanted to say. Was it is something that you have to weigh your options on if you want to clear your own land, and you absolutely can do it. I'm not the guy to tell you that, oh yeah, it's easy. Spend a couple grand, rent an excavator, and just go start pushing trees down. Is it doable? Yeah, it's doable. Am I the guy to do that?
I don't think so.
You guys, be good. I'll see you on the next one. And if that, man, it's so loud, guys, it's so loud. I wish I could finish this video. You know, I could probably do a video with 0 cuts if I didn't have to stop and repeat myself over the noise of the traffic. I don't even know what I was talking about. I lost track.